I stood in the doorway of my daughter's bedroom, watching her sleep. 7 years old. Dark curls spread across the pillow. She had no idea that tomorrow, everything might change. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I already knew who it was. The same number that had been calling for 3 days straight. The same name I hadn't spoken out loud in nearly a decade. Daniel. My hand trembled as I pulled the phone out. The screen glowed in the darkness. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Not yet. Because answering meant facing something I'd buried so deep. I'd almost convinced myself it never existed. But it did exist. And now he was back. Before we continue, if this is your first time watching one of our videos, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button and comment where you are watching from. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us bring you even more powerful stories. Let me tell you how this began. Not tomorrow, not 3 days ago when the calls started, but 9 years earlier when I was 23 years old, standing in the rain outside a small apartment building, watching the only man I'd ever loved walk away. His name was Daniel Morrison. We grew up in the same neighborhood, the kind of place where people knew your business before you did, where mothers gossiped over fences and fathers worked double shifts just to keep the lights on. Daniel lived 3 houses down from mine. His family had even less than we did, which is saying something. His father had left when he was 8. His mother cleaned houses for wealthy families across town, came home with her hands raw and her back bent. But Daniel had something none of us had. Hope. He believed he could be more. Do more. He spent every free hour at the library, reading books about business, about men who'd built empires from nothing. He worked 2 jobs while finishing high school. He saved every penny. And he loved me. I knew he loved me the way you know the sun will rise. It was just truth. Simple and clear. We were 18 when he first said it. We were sitting on the hood of his beat-up car, looking at the city lights in the distance. He took my hand and said, "Emma, I'm going to marry you someday." I laughed. Not because I didn't believe him, but because I did. "You have to ask me first," I said. He turned to face me, his eyes serious in a way that made my heart skip. "I can't. Not yet. Not until I can give you the life you deserve." "I don't need." "I do," he interrupted. His voice was quiet but firm. "I need to be able to provide for you. To give you a home. Security. Everything my father didn't give my mother. So I'm making you a promise, Emma Clark. When I'm rich, and I will be rich, I'm going to come back and marry you." I should have argued. Should have told him that love was enough. But I was young and I believed in his dream as much as he did. "I'll wait," I whispered. He kissed me then, soft and slow like a vow. That was the first promise. 5 years later came the second one. We were 23 by then. Daniel had been working in the city for 2 years, some startup company I barely understood. He came home twice a month, sometimes less. Each time he looked more tired, more worn, but his eyes still lit up when he saw me. "It's happening, Em," he'd say. "We're so close. Another year, maybe 2, and I'll have enough. Enough to start my own company. Enough to give you everything." I worked at the local diner during those years. Lived with my mother in the same small house where I'd grown up. Saved my tips in a jar under my bed, though I didn't know what I was saving for. I was saving for us, I suppose. For the life Daniel kept promising. Then came the night that broke us. It was raining. March rain, cold and relentless. Daniel had driven up from the city without warning. He looked different. Older. His suit was expensive now, not the thrift store clothes he used to wear. But his face looked hollowed out. "I got the offer," he said. We were standing under the awning of the diner. My shift had just ended. The investment I've been waiting for. "But Emma, it's in California. I have to move. For at least 3 years, maybe 5. My heart dropped. 5 years. It's the opportunity I've been working toward. Everything I've done has been for this moment. He grabbed my hands. They were cold. Or maybe mine were. "Come with me." I wanted to. God, I wanted to. "My mother," I said. "She's sick, Daniel. The doctors say it's her heart. She needs me here. Bring her with us. She won't leave. You know she won't. This is her home. And I can't leave her alone. Not now." We stood there in the rain, holding each other's hands, both of us crying though neither of us said it. "Then I'll stay," Daniel said finally. "I'll turn it down. I'll stay here with you." "No." The word came out harder than I meant it to. "You've worked too hard for this. You can't give it up. Not for me." You're not just. Go, I said. Go to California. Build your dream. And when you're done, when you're ready, come back. I tried to smile. You promised me, remember? When you're rich. He pulled me close, pressed his forehead against mine. I love you, Emma Clark. That will never change. I love you too. He kissed me one last time. Then he got in his car and drove away. I stood in the rain long after his taillights disappeared, telling myself it was just rain on my face. It wasn't. The first year, we talked every day. Phone calls at night when he finished work. Long conversations about everything and nothing. He told me about California, about the company growing faster than anyone expected. I told him about my mother, about the regulars at the diner, about the way the neighborhood was changing. I miss you, he'd say. I miss you too, I'd reply. The second year, the calls became less frequent. Once a day became every few days. Every few days became once a week. I'm sorry, Em. Work is just crazy right now. We're expanding into 3 new markets and I'm barely sleeping. I understood. Or I told myself I did. The third year, my mother died. It was sudden. One moment she was complaining about the weather. The next she was gone. Heart attack while she slept. The doctor said she didn't feel any pain. I called Daniel. Left 3 messages. He called back 2 days later. Emma, I'm so sorry. I was in Tokyo for meetings and my phone. She's already buried, I said. My voice sounded hollow even to my own ears. Silence on the line. I'm coming home, he said. I'll get on a plane right now. Don't. I was so tired. The funeral's over. There's nothing left to come back for. Emma, I have to go. I hung up. He called back immediately. I didn't answer. He called 17 more times that week. I didn't answer any of them. Eventually, he stopped calling. I want you to understand something. I don't blame Daniel for not being there. He didn't know my mother would die. He was building the life he'd always dreamed of. The life he'd promised to build for us. But grief does strange things to people. It makes you angry at the wrong things. It makes you push away the people you need most. And I was so angry. Not at him exactly. At everything. At God for taking my mother. At myself for not being enough to make her want to fight harder. At the empty house that still smelled like her perfume. At Daniel for not being there when I needed him most. So I stopped answering. Stopped waiting by the phone. Stopped checking his social media to see photos of him at company events. Smiling that same bright smile I'd fallen in love with. I boxed up my mother's things. Sold the house. Used the money to move to a different part of town, where nothing reminded me of her or him or the girl I used to be. I got a job at a bookstore. Small place, quiet. The owner was an older woman named Margaret who asked me questions, but never too many. She let me hide between the shelves when I needed to. And slowly, very slowly, I learned how to be alone. I met James on a Tuesday. It was raining again. Seems like all the important moments in my life happen in the rain. He came into the bookstore shaking water from his jacket, apologizing for dripping on the floor. He had kind eyes. Brown where Daniel's were blue. Calm where Daniel's were always burning with some inner fire. I'm looking for a gift, he said. My niece's birthday. She's turning 8 and she loves horses. I showed him to the children's section. We talked about books for a while. He was easy to talk to. Gentle. He made me laugh, which I hadn't done in months. Before he left, he asked if I'd like to get coffee sometime. I almost said no. But something in his expression, hopeful but not desperate, interested but not demanding, made me pause. Okay, I said. His smile was soft. Okay. James was a teacher. Elementary school, 4th grade. He'd been married before, briefly, in his 20s. No children. It ended amicably when they both realized they wanted different things from life. He liked quiet evenings and old movies. He volunteered at an animal shelter on weekends. He had a cat named Walter who was missing one ear from a fight before James adopted him. He was steady, reliable, safe. He was everything Daniel wasn't. And after 6 months, when he asked me to dinner and got down on one knee in the middle of the restaurant, I said yes. Not because I loved him the way I loved Daniel. I don't think I ever could. That kind of love, the burning, all-consuming kind, only happens once if you're lucky. But I loved James in a different way, a quieter way. And I thought maybe that was enough. Maybe that was even better. Because quiet love doesn't break you when it leaves. We got married in a small ceremony. Just us, the judge, and Margaret from the bookstore as our witness. No big wedding. No fuss. James understood I didn't want that. And for a while I was happy. Or at least content. Then I got pregnant. Sophie came into the world screaming her lungs out at 3 a.m. 7 pounds, 4 ounces. Dark hair, even then. Eyes that seemed to look right through you. James cried when he held her. She's perfect, he whispered. And she was. Being a mother changed me in ways I didn't expect. Suddenly I wasn't just existing anymore, moving through my days in a haze of getting by. I had purpose. Someone who needed me. Someone I would do anything for. Sophie was easy baby in some ways, difficult in others. She slept through the night early, but refused to eat anything green. She learned to walk at 10 months, and immediately used this power to get into everything. She had opinions about her clothes, her toys, the way her sandwich was cut. She was stubborn, determined. She knew what she wanted, and didn't stop until she got it. She reminded me of Daniel. I never told James that. Never told him that sometimes, when Sophie tilted her head a certain way or got that fierce look in her eyes, I had to leave the room to catch my breath. James was a good father. Patient. Loving. He read to Sophie every night, did voices for all the characters. He taught her to ride a bike, held her when she had nightmares, went to every single parent-teacher conference and school play. He was everything I'd asked Daniel to be that night in the rain. But he wasn't Daniel, and I hated myself for still noticing the difference. Sophie was 4 when James sat me down at the kitchen table one evening after she'd gone to bed. "Emma," he said quietly, "I think we need to talk." My stomach clenched. "About what?" He reached across the table and took my hand. His touch was warm, familiar. "About the fact that you don't love me. Not the way you should." I opened my mouth to protest, but he shook his head. "It's okay," he said. "I've known for a while. Maybe I always knew. But I thought maybe over time." He trailed off, gave a sad smile. "But you can't force something that isn't there. James, I do love you. I know you do. Just not enough." His eyes were wet, but he wasn't crying. "And I can't spend the rest of my life wondering if you're thinking about someone else. If every time you look at Sophie you see him." The air left my lungs. "How did you? You talk in your sleep sometimes. You say his name." He squeezed my hand. "Daniel." We sat in silence for a long moment. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "Don't be. You've tried. You've really tried. But Emma, we both deserve more than trying." He was right. We both knew it. We got divorced 6 months later. It was amicable, like everything with James. He moved to an apartment 15 minutes away, saw Sophie every weekend and Wednesday evenings. She cried at first, but she was young enough to adapt, to accept that sometimes families look different than you expect. James met someone new within a year. A woman named Rachel who taught at his school. She was kind to Sophie. That was all I asked for. And I was alone again. But this time I had Sophie. And that made all the difference. Sophie started asking about her father when she was 5. Not James. She knew James was her dad, saw him regularly, loved him. But one day, out of nowhere, she looked up at me with those intense eyes and said, "Mommy, why do I look different than Daddy?" My heart stopped. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "My hair. And my eyes. Daddy has brown hair and brown eyes. You have blonde hair and green eyes. But I have black hair and blue eyes." She tilted her head. "Where did I get them from? Children see everything. They're smarter than we give them credit for." "You got them from your grandparents," I said, which was true enough. My mother had darker hair before it went gray. My father, who left when I was 3, had blue eyes. Or so I was told. She accepted this answer then. But I knew more questions would come. They did. "Mommy, do you have old pictures?" She was 6 now, looking through a box of photos I'd kept hidden in the back of my closet. "Some," I said carefully. She pulled out a photo of me at 18, standing next to Daniel at the lake. We were both laughing, his arm around my shoulders, my head tilted toward him. "Who's that?" she asked. I should have lied. Should have said he was just a friend. But looking at that photo, at the happiness on my younger face, I couldn't. "That's Daniel," I said quietly. "He was someone very special to me. A long time ago. Where is he now?" "I don't know, baby." Sophie stared at the photo for a long moment. Then she looked up at me. "Were you in love with him? How do you explain adult emotions to a 6-year-old? How do you tell your daughter about the boy who promised you everything, then left you with nothing but memories?" "Yes," I said simply. "I was." "What happened?" "Life happened, sweetheart. Sometimes people go different directions. It doesn't mean they stop caring. It just means their paths don't match up anymore. She thought about this, her little face serious. Then she put the photo back in the box and climbed into my lap. I'm glad you have me now, she said. I held her tight, breathing in the smell of her strawberry shampoo. Me too, baby. Me too. I thought that would be the end of it. But Sophie kept that photo. I found it months later, tucked into her diary. When I asked her about it, she just shrugged. He looks nice, she said. And you look happy. She wasn't wrong. By the time Sophie turned 7, she'd stopped asking questions about Daniel. But sometimes I'd catch her looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Like she knew something I wasn't saying. Children are perceptive that way. The first call came on a Monday morning. I was making breakfast, pancakes, Sophie's favorite, when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But I was expecting a call from Sophie's school about an upcoming field trip, so I picked up. Emma. My hand froze on the spatula. That voice. I knew that voice like I knew my own heartbeat. Emma, it's Daniel. Please don't hang up. I hung up. Sophie came into the kitchen. Mommy, you're burning the pancakes. I was. Smoke was rising from the pan. I turned off the stove, my hands shaking. Sorry, baby. Let me make new ones. The phone rang again. Same number. I declined the call. It rang 5 more times that day. I declined every one. That night, a text message. Please, Emma. I just need to talk to you. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I deleted it. More texts followed. I deleted those too, without reading them. But they kept coming. And after 3 days, I finally read one. I made a terrible mistake. I know that now. But Emma, I never stopped thinking about you. Not for a single day. Please. Let me explain. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at those words until they blurred. 9 years. 9 years of silence. And now he wanted to explain? Sophie found me crying in the bathroom that night. Mommy. Her voice was small, worried. What's wrong? I wiped my eyes quickly. Nothing, sweetheart. I'm fine. But she climbed into my lap. She was getting too big for that, all long limbs and elbows, and put her small hands on my cheeks. You're sad, she said. It wasn't a question. Sometimes grown-ups get sad too. Is it about Daniel? My breath caught. Why would you think that? Because you've been looking at your phone a lot. And you get this face. Like you're scared and sad and mad all at the same time. Her expression was so earnest. Is he the one calling you? I couldn't lie to her. Not about this. Yes, I said softly. What does he want? To talk. Are you going to? Was I? I'd been asking myself the same question for 3 days. I don't know, I admitted. Sophie was quiet for a moment. Then she said, My teacher says when someone hurts your feelings, you should tell them how you feel. But only if you want to. You don't have to talk to anyone you don't want to talk to. Out of the mouths of babes. That's very wise, I said. She hugged me tight. I love you, Mommy. I love you too, baby. After I tucked her in that night, I sat on my bed and stared at my phone for a long time. Finally, I typed a response. 1 conversation. That's all. Tell me when and where. The reply came within seconds, tomorrow. The coffee shop on Main Street. 10 a.m. Thank you, Emma. Thank you. I didn't respond. I just turned off my phone and tried to sleep. I didn't. I dropped Sophie off at school and sat in my car in the parking lot for 10 minutes, trying to steady my breathing. This was a mistake. I should drive away, block his number, move on with my life. But my hands turned the key in the ignition and drove toward Main Street anyway. The coffee shop was the same one James had taken me to on our first date. I don't know if Daniel knew that. Probably not. I was early. I ordered a tea I didn't want and sat at a corner table where I could see the door. He walked in at exactly 10, and my breath stopped. He looked different. Older, obviously. We were both 32 now. But it was more than that. His hair was shorter, styled professionally. He wore a suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. His shoulders were broader, his face more angular. But his eyes were the same. They found me immediately. And the expression in them, relief, fear, hope, regret, all mixed together, nearly broke me. He walked over slowly, like I might bolt if he moved too fast. Emma, he said softly. You look beautiful. I didn't respond. I couldn't. He sat down across from me, and suddenly we were 18 again, sitting on the hood of his car, the whole world ahead of us. Except we weren't. 9 years and a lifetime stood between us now. Thank you for coming, he said. I wasn't sure you would. I almost didn't. He nodded, like he expected that. I don't know where to start. How about why? My voice came out harder than I meant it to. Why now? After 9 years of silence, why are you calling me now? He took a breath. Because I finally have everything I said I would. The company, the money, the success. I have all of it. His eyes met mine. And none of it means anything without you. I wanted to throw my tea in his face. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him that you can't disappear from someone's life for 9 years and then show up expecting them to still be waiting. But I just sat there frozen. That's not good enough, I said finally. You don't get to tell me everything is meaningless without me when you're the one who left. You're the one who stopped calling. You stopped answering, he said quietly. Because my mother died. The words came out louder than I intended. A couple at the next table looked over. I lowered my voice. She died, Daniel. And you weren't there. I know. His voice cracked. Emma, I know. And I have regretted that every single day since. I should have been there. I should have gotten on a plane the second you called. But I was in the middle of negotiations that would make or break the company. And I convinced myself I could make it up to you later. That you'd understand. He stopped, ran his hand through his hair. But you didn't answer my calls. And I thought maybe you decided you were done with me. Done with waiting. So you just gave up. No. Yes. I don't know. He looked down at his hands. I kept calling for months. I sent letters to your old address. But you'd moved. You'd disappeared. And I thought maybe that was what you wanted. To disappear from me. You could have tried harder. I know. You could have come back. Actually shown up instead of just calling. I know. You promised me, Daniel. You promised you'd come back when you were rich. When you had everything. And I believed you. I meant it. Every word. He looked up at me, and there were tears in his eyes. But Emma, somewhere along the way, I convinced myself that I needed to be perfect. That I couldn't come back to you until I had built this empire. Until I could give you everything. And the more successful I became, the more I thought I needed to achieve before I was worthy of you. It became this impossible bar I kept raising. I never asked you to be perfect. I just asked you to be there. I know that now. But back then, all I could think about was my father. About how he left because he couldn't provide for us. About how my mother worked herself to exhaustion just to keep food on the table. I swore I would never do that. That I would never be the man who couldn't take care of his family. He wiped his eyes roughly. But in trying not to be him, I became something worse. I became the man who abandoned the person he loved most. The thing about pain is that you can't hold on to it forever. Eventually, it either consumes you or you let it go. Looking at Daniel across that table, seeing his tears, hearing the regret in his voice, it didn't erase the hurt. It didn't make the last 9 years disappear. But it explained them. And maybe that was something. Why now? I asked again, softer this time. What changed? He took a breath. 6 months ago, I was at a charity gala. Surrounded by wealthy people, important people. Everyone congratulating me on my success, on the company. And I looked around at all of it. The champagne, the tuxedos, the people who wanted something from me. And I realized I was completely alone. Not just that night. Always. I'd spent 9 years building this life, and I had no one to share it with. You could have found someone. I'm sure there were plenty of women. There were, he interrupted. I dated. Even got engaged once, about 4 years ago. My heart twisted, though I had no right to feel that. What happened? I asked. I called it off. 2 weeks before the wedding. He looked at me. Because I couldn't stop thinking about you. Because every woman I met, I compared to you. And none of them were you, Emma. None of them ever could be. That's not fair to them. Or to me. I know. That's why I stopped trying. I threw myself into work instead. Convinced myself that was enough. He reached across the table. Stopped just short of touching my hand. But it wasn't. And 6 months ago, standing in that ballroom, I finally admitted to myself that I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. That all of this, he gestured vaguely, means nothing if I can't share it with the person who believed in me from the beginning. I pulled my hand back, tucked it in my lap. You can't do this, Daniel. You can't show up after 9 years and expect everything to be the same. I don't expect that. I know it's not the same. I know you've built a life without me. I know. He hesitated. I know you were married. My eyes widened. How did you? I hired someone. A private investigator. About 2 years ago. He looked ashamed. I needed to know if you were okay. If you were happy. They told me you'd gotten married. Had a daughter. We're divorced now. I should have been angry. It was an invasion of privacy. But part of me understood. I'd done my own stalking over the years, looking up his company online, reading articles about his success. Yes, I said simply. I was married. To a good man. We have a daughter named Sophie. She's 7. Something flickered across his face. Pain, maybe. Or regret. Is she? He stopped, started again. Are you still in love with him? No. I don't think I ever was. Not really. The admission felt like a betrayal of James, but it was true. He deserved better than what I could give him. Someone who loved him completely. Not someone who was settling because the person they really loved was gone. Daniel's jaw tightened. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I put you in that position. I'm sorry you had to. Don't apologize for my choices. I married James knowing exactly what I was doing. I thought I could make it work. I thought maybe quiet love was enough. I looked down at my tea. But it wasn't. Not for either of us. We sat in silence for a moment. Your daughter, he said carefully. Sophie. Does she know about me? She knows I had someone before James. Someone important. She found an old photo. What did you tell her? The truth. That I loved someone once. That he went away. That sometimes life takes people in different directions. I met his eyes. What was I supposed to say? That you promised to marry me and then disappeared. Emma, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm just telling you how it was. How it is. You asked for this conversation, Daniel. So here it is. The truth. You left. You stopped calling. And I had to figure out how to keep living. So I did. I got married. I had a baby. I got divorced. And through all of it, I never stopped wondering what would have happened if you'd kept your promise. His voice was barely a whisper. I'm keeping it now. It's too late. Is it? I stood up. This was too much. Too fast. I need to go. Emma, please. No. You don't get to do this. You don't get to show up and tell me you made a mistake and expect me to just... What? Fall back into your arms? Pretend the last 9 years didn't happen. I'm not asking you to forget. I'm asking you to give me a chance to make it right. Some things can't be made right, Daniel. Some things are just broken. Are we broken? He asked. Or are we just bent? Because bent things can be straightened. Broken things can be fixed. We're not things. We're people. With histories. With hurt. I have a daughter now. She's my priority. My only priority. I understand that. I would never ask you to. You don't understand. You can't possibly understand what it's like to be a mother. To have this little person who depends on you for everything. Who looks at you like you hung the moon. I can't risk her getting hurt because I made a selfish decision. Wanting to be happy isn't selfish. It is when you're a parent. I grabbed my purse and walked toward the door. He followed me. Emma, wait. Please. Just, can I see you again? One more time. Let me show you what I've built. What I wanted to build for us. I turned to face him. Why would I want to see that? Why would I want to see the life I could have had? Because maybe it's not too late to have it. I have a daughter, Daniel. I know. And I won't introduce her to someone who might disappear again. I won't. I promise you I won't. You promised me before. The words hung between us like a wall. Finally, I said, one more meeting. But not about us. About closure. So we can both move on. His face fell, but he nodded. Okay. Closure. When? Next week. Saturday. Sophie will be with James for the weekend. Where? I thought about it. The park. The one by the lake. Where we used to go. I'll be there. I walked to my car without looking back. But I felt his eyes on me the whole way. The week that followed was the longest of my life. I went through the motions. Made breakfast for Sophie. Dropped her at school. Went to work at the bookstore. Margaret kept giving me concerned looks but didn't pry. At night, after Sophie was asleep, I'd sit in the living room and think about Daniel. About the boy he was and the man he'd become. About the promises made and broken. About the life I'd imagined and the life I'd lived instead. Sophie noticed something was wrong. Mommy, are you sick? She asked on Thursday evening. No, baby. Why? Because you keep staring at nothing. And you made my sandwich wrong today. You never make it wrong. I pulled her into a hug. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Mommy's just been thinking about some grown-up stuff. About Daniel? My heart skipped. What makes you say that? Because you have that face again. The one you get when you look at the old picture. This child was too perceptive for her own good. Maybe a little, I admitted. She pulled back to look at me. Are you going to see him? Yes. On Saturday. Is he nice? He was. A long time ago. I don't know what he's like now. Sophie thought about this, her face serious. Then she said, if he's not nice to you, I'll tell Daddy on him. I laughed despite everything. Thank you, baby. But I can handle it. I know. But you don't have to handle everything by yourself. That's what families are for. Wise beyond her years, this one. Friday night, James came to pick up Sophie for the weekend. As she was getting her overnight bag, he pulled me aside. Are you okay? He asked. Sophie says you've been distracted. I'm fine. He gave me a look that said he didn't believe me. Emma, I know we're not married anymore, but I still care about you. If something's wrong, do you remember me mentioning Daniel? Years ago. His expression changed. Understanding, then concern. The one from the photograph. The one you. He trailed off. Yes. He's back. He wants to talk. And you're going to? Tomorrow, I said. Just to get closure. To finally end that chapter properly. James was quiet for a moment. Then he said, be careful, Emma. I know you loved him once. Maybe you still do. But 9 years is a long time. People change. I know. And Sophie, she's sensitive. She picks up on more than you think. Whatever you decide, just make sure it's what's best for her too. That's the only thing I'm thinking about. He squeezed my shoulder gently. I know you are. You're a good mom, Emma. The best. He paused. But you're allowed to want something for yourself too. You know that, right? Before I could answer, Sophie came running back with her stuffed elephant. Ready, Daddy. I watched them drive away, James's words echoing in my head. Was I allowed to want something for myself? I'd stopped asking that question years ago. Saturday arrived gray and overcast. Rain threatening, but not yet falling. Of course. I drove to the park at 2 o'clock. Daniel was already there, standing by the lake, hands in his pockets. He'd traded his expensive suit for jeans and a simple blue sweater. He looked more like the boy I remembered. That made it harder. Hi, he said as I approached. Hi. We stood there awkwardly. Two people who once knew everything about each other, now strangers. Want to walk? He asked. I nodded. We started down the path that circled the lake. For a few minutes, neither of us spoke. Just the sound of our footsteps, the wind in the trees, the distant call of birds. Finally, Daniel said, I used to come here sometimes. Over the years. When I'd visit my mother. You visited? Not as much as I should have. But yes. A few times a year. She passed away 2 years ago. I'm sorry. I didn't know. How could you? I didn't tell you. He kicked at a stone on the path. I wanted to call you. When she died. I picked up the phone a dozen times. But I thought I'd lost the right to call you when I needed comfort. You would have lost the right if you'd only called when you needed something. I said quietly. But Daniel, I would have been there. Even after everything. I would have been there for you. He stopped walking, turned to face me. Why? After what I did to you, why would you have been there? Because I loved you. Because love doesn't just disappear because someone hurts you. It just changes shape. His eyes were wet. Do you still love me? The question hung between us. I looked out at the lake. The same lake where we'd spent so many summer days. Where he'd first told me he loved me. Where we'd planned our future. I don't know. I said honestly. I love the memory of you. The boy you were. But that boy is gone. And the man standing in front of me is a stranger. Then let me not be a stranger. Let me show you who I am now. Who I became. Maybe you won't like him. Maybe you'll decide the boy was better. But at least you'll know. Why does it matter so much? You have everything you wanted. Success, money, recognition. You don't need me. You're right. I don't need you. He stepped closer. But Emma, I want you. I want you in my life. I want to hear about your day. I want to know your daughter. I want to be there for the boring moments and the exciting ones. I want to make up for lost time, even though I know I can't. I want a chance. That's all. Just a chance. I wanted to say no. Every protective instinct in me screamed to walk away. To protect myself. To protect Sophie. But there was a part of me, small, buried deep, that still remembered what it felt like to be loved by Daniel Morrison. Really loved. Completely loved. And that part whispered, what if? I need time, I said. This isn't just about me anymore. I have Sophie to think about. And I can't. I can't let someone into her life who might leave. I understand. Do you? Because you've never been a parent, Daniel. You've never looked into someone's eyes and known that you're their whole world. That if you make the wrong choice, you could break them. I can survive being hurt again. I've done it before. But Sophie, she's already been through one divorce. I won't put her through more pain because I was selfish. Then don't think of it as being selfish. Think of it as showing her what love looks like. Real love. The kind that weathers storms and finds its way back. Or the kind that leaves for 9 years. He flinched but didn't look away. You're right. I left. I made a terrible choice. But Emma, I'm here now. I'm standing in front of you, asking for a chance to prove that I've learned from my mistakes. Doesn't that count for something? Maybe. I don't know. I wrapped my arms around myself. What are you even proposing? That we just pick up where we left off? That we pretend 9 years didn't happen? No. I'm proposing that we start over. New. Get to know each other again. Let me take you to dinner. Let me show you around my world. And if you decide it's not for you, if you decide I'm not the person you want in your life, I'll respect that. I'll walk away. And I'll never bother you again. Promise. I promise. Against my better judgment, I agreed to have dinner with him. Not that weekend. I needed time to think, to process. But the following Friday, when Sophie was at a sleepover at her friend's house, Daniel picked me up at 7. He'd rented a car, something modest, not flashy, and he opened my door like a gentleman. Where are we going? I asked. You'll see. We drove for 20 minutes, out of town toward the hills. I started to feel nervous. This was secluded, isolated. What if? Then we crested a hill, and I saw it. A small restaurant perched at the edge of a cliff, overlooking the valley. Lights strung between trees. Soft music floating on the breeze. I found this place a few years ago, Daniel said quietly. I thought about bringing people here, but it never felt right. This place, it felt like it was meant for you. He parked, and we walked to the entrance. The host greeted Daniel by name. He'd clearly been here before, and led us to a table on the terrace. The view was breathtaking. The city lights stretched out below us like fallen stars. It's beautiful, I said. You're beautiful. I looked at him. He wasn't smiling, wasn't trying to be smooth, just stating what he saw as fact. Daniel. I know. Too much too soon. I'm sorry. I'm just. He ran his hand through his hair, a gesture I remembered from years ago. I'm nervous. I feel like I'm 18 again, trying to impress the prettiest girl in town. Despite everything, I smiled. You were always good at that. At being nervous? At making me smile. Dinner was strange. Familiar and foreign at the same time. We talked about safe things at first. His company. He'd built it from the ground up, creating software that helped small businesses manage their finances. It had taken off beyond his wildest dreams. We have offices in 12 countries now, he said. Over 500 employees. It's surreal sometimes. I started in a garage with 2 other guys and a laptop. You always said you would do it. Did you believe me? Back then. I thought about it. Yes. You had this certainty about you. Like you could see the future and were just waiting for everyone else to catch up. I was faking half of it. Really. Terrified most of the time. Convinced I'd fail. The only thing that kept me going was... He stopped. What? You. The thought of coming back to you. Proving I was worth waiting for. The words hit harder than they should have. Your turn, he said, clearly wanting to change the subject. Tell me about your life. Your work. Sophie. So I did. I told him about the bookstore, about Margaret, and how she'd given me a job when I needed it most. About the regular customers who'd become friends. About the quiet satisfaction of matching people with the right book. And I told him about Sophie. About her fierce independence, her curiosity, her stubbornness. About the time she'd convinced her entire first-grade class to protest homework. About how she'd cried for an hour when she found an injured bird and we couldn't save it. About how she slept with 17 stuffed animals and had a name and backstory for each one. She sounds incredible, Daniel said softly. She is. She's the best thing I've ever done. The only thing I've done that really matters. Can I? He hesitated. Can I meet her? Someday. My chest tightened. Maybe. Eventually. If this goes somewhere. Is it going somewhere? I looked at him across the candlelight. At the man he'd become. Successful, confident, but with shadows in his eyes that hadn't been there before. I don't know yet, I said honestly. But I'm here. That's something. He reached across the table and took my hand. I didn't pull away. It's everything, he said. We started seeing each other regularly after that. Carefully. Slowly. Dinner once a week. Sometimes twice. Never at my place. I didn't want Sophie to see him until I was sure. Until I knew what this was. He told me about his life over the past 9 years. The long hours, the near bankruptcies, the moments he almost gave up. The success that came suddenly, all at once, like a dam breaking. It was lonely, he admitted one night. We were walking along the waterfront, the city lights reflecting on the water. Even with 100 employees, even at parties with investors and press. I'd look around and realize I didn't actually know any of these people. Not really. They knew Daniel Morrison, CEO. Not Daniel. Just Daniel. Who is he? I asked. Just Daniel. He thought about it. Scared. Trying to make up for mistakes. Hoping it's not too late. And when you're not thinking about the past, then I'm thinking about the future. About what it could look like if you let me in. We'd stopped walking. We were standing under a streetlight, close enough that I could see the gold flecks in his blue eyes. What does that future look like? I whispered. Happy. Quiet. Full. He touched my face gently. You me, Sophie. Maybe more kids if you wanted. A house with a yard. Sunday mornings reading the paper. Ordinary things. The things I thought I didn't want but turns out are all I want. That's a lot to ask for. I know. But Emma, I've spent 9 years chasing success. Let me spend the rest of my life chasing happiness instead. He leaned down slowly, giving me time to pull away. I didn't. Our lips met soft and tentative. Like a question. Like a promise. Like coming home after a long journey. When we pulled apart, I was crying. What's wrong? He asked, concerned. Nothing. Everything. I don't know. I wiped my eyes. I'm scared, Daniel. I'm so scared. What if this doesn't work? What if we try and it falls apart? What if? What if it doesn't? What if we try and it's everything we dreamed of? What if we get our second chance and we don't waste it? Life doesn't give second chances that easily. Maybe not. But we're here. Right now. Both of us still standing. Still wanting this. That's got to count for something. 2 months into our tentative relationship, I made a decision. It was time for Daniel to meet Sophie. I told her first, one evening after dinner. Sophie, honey, I need to talk to you about something important. She looked up from her coloring book. Am I in trouble? No, baby. Nothing like that. Remember how I told you about Daniel? The person in the old photograph. Her eyes widened. The one you loved? Yes. Well, he's back. He lives here now. And I've been seeing him. Like dating. Yes. Like dating. She was quiet for a moment, processing. Then, is he nice to you? Very nice. Does he make you happy? I thought about it. Really thought about it. He does. He makes me feel like myself again. Like the person I was before everything got so complicated. Then I want to meet him. Are you sure? There's no rush. We can wait. Mommy. She put her small hand on mine. If he makes you happy, I want to meet him. That's what families do. They meet the people who are important. My heart swelled. When did you get so wise? I'm 7 now. I'm practically a grown-up. I laughed and pulled her into a hug. We arranged to meet at the zoo. Neutral territory. Lots of distractions if things got awkward. Sophie insisted on wearing her favorite dress. The blue one with sunflowers, and spent 20 minutes choosing which stuffed animal to bring for courage. She settled on Ferdinand, a small elephant with one torn ear. He's brave, she explained. Because he got hurt, but he's still here. We arrived 10 minutes early. Sophie held my hand tightly as we walked through the entrance. Daniel was already there, waiting by the flamingo exhibit. He saw us and waved, his smile nervous. Sophie looked up at me. He's tall. Yes, he is. And he has blue eyes like me. My heart skipped. I'd never made that connection out loud to her. Daniel walked over, and I saw his hands were shaking slightly. Hi, he said. Hi, I replied. He crouched down to Sophie's level. You must be Sophie. Your mom has told me so much about you. Sophie regarded him seriously. She told me about you too. You went away for a long time. Daniel didn't flinch from her directness. I did. And that was a mistake. I'm sorry I wasn't here. Were you mean to my mom? No. But I hurt her feelings by leaving. That's not okay. Sophie thought about this. Then she held out Ferdinand. This is my elephant. He got hurt once too, but he's okay now. Daniel took the elephant carefully, like it was made of glass. He's very brave. What's his name? Ferdinand. That's a strong name. I know. He needs it because he protects me from bad dreams. That's important work. Sophie smiled then, really smiled. And I saw Daniel's shoulders relax. Want to see the penguins? Sophie asked. They're my favorite. I'd love to. She reached out and took his hand. Just like that. As simple as breathing. I watched them walk ahead of me. Sophie chattering about penguin facts she'd learned in school. Daniel listening with complete attention. And I thought, maybe this could work. After that day at the zoo, Daniel became a regular presence in our lives. He was careful never to overstep. Never tried to parent Sophie or take James's place. He was just there. Present. Interested. He came to Sophie's school play, sat in the back where she wouldn't be nervous, cheered louder than anyone when she took her bow. He fixed the wobbly table in our kitchen without being asked, stayed for dinner, helped Sophie with her homework about fractions. I hate fractions, Sophie declared, throwing her pencil down. I know, Daniel said. I hated them too. Want to know a secret? What? They're actually everywhere. Pizza slices are fractions. Pieces of cake. Time on a clock. Once you see them in real life, they make more sense. Sophie considered this. Can we practice with actual pizza? Daniel looked at me. I nodded, smiling. We ordered pizza and turned math homework into a game. By the end of the night, Sophie understood fractions and Daniel had tomato sauce on his shirt. After Sophie went to bed, he helped me clean up the kitchen. Thank you, I said, for being so good with her. I'm not trying to replace James. I know, but you're finding your own place. That matters. He dried the last dish and turned to face me. Emma, I need to tell you something. My heart sped up. What? I love you. Still. Again. Always. He held up a hand when I started to speak. You don't have to say it back. I just need you to know. These past months with you, with Sophie, it's everything I didn't know I was missing. And I'm not going anywhere. Not unless you tell me to go. I set down the dish towel. I'm not going to tell you to go. No. Because. I took a breath. Because I think I'm falling in love with you again. Or maybe I never stopped. I don't know. But Daniel, you're here. Really here. And that changes everything. He pulled me close, rested his forehead against mine. I'm here. I promise. For as long as you'll have me. We stood like that for a long moment, just breathing together. Then a small voice from the doorway. Are you guys kissing? We jumped apart. Sophie stood there in her pajamas, grinning. We were hugging, I said. It looked like kissing. Go back to bed, monkey. She giggled and ran off, but called back. I don't mind if you kiss him, Mommy. He's nice. Daniel laughed. I like her. She likes you too. That's the problem. Why is that a problem? Because if this doesn't work out, Emma, he took my face in his hands. It's going to work out. I'm going to make sure it works out. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. But losing you twice, I won't survive that. So I'm going to show up. Every day. For you and for Sophie. I promise. You promised before. I know. And I broke that promise. But I was young and stupid and scared. I'm still scared. But I'm not young anymore. And I'm not stupid enough to let you go again. 6 months later, on a Saturday afternoon, Daniel took Sophie and me to the lake. Why are we going to the lake? Sophie asked from the back seat. It's a surprise, Daniel said, glancing at me. I'd learned to trust his surprises. They were usually thoughtful, meaningful. We parked and walked down to the water. The same spot where Daniel and I used to sit as teenagers. Where he'd first promised to marry me. There was a picnic set up. Blanket, basket, flowers in a vase. Did you do this? I asked. I had some help. He nodded toward the parking lot, where Margaret from the bookstore was getting into her car, giving us a wave. You enlisted Margaret? She was very enthusiastic about it. Sophie ran ahead to the picnic blanket. Look, Mommy. There's cookies. We sat down and ate sandwiches and fruit. Sophie chattered about school, about her friend Emma who had gotten a new puppy, about the book she was reading. Then Daniel stood up. Sophie, I need to ask you something. She looked up, cookie crumbs on her face. What? I love your mom very much. And I love spending time with you. And I was wondering. He pulled a small box from his pocket. If it would be okay with you if I asked your mom to marry me. Sophie's eyes went huge. She looked at the box, then at me, then back at Daniel. You want to marry my mommy? Very much. Will you live with us? If your mom says yes. And if you're okay with it. Sophie thought about this seriously. Then, will you still help me with fractions? Daniel laughed. Every single day if you need me to. And will you come to my school plays? Front row. And will you be nice to my daddy? Because he's still my daddy. Always. James is important to you, which makes him important to me. Sophie nodded slowly. Then she looked at me. I think you should say yes, Mommy. Daniel turned to me then. Got down on one knee. Emma Clark. I made you a promise when I was 18 years old. I told you I'd marry you when I was rich. And I meant it. But I was wrong about what rich really meant. He opened the box. Inside was a simple ring. Beautiful but not ostentatious. I thought it meant money. Success. Things. But I've learned that being rich means having people you love. Having someone to come home to. Having a little girl who makes you laugh and challenges you and teaches you what really matters. He took my hand. I'm rich now, Emma. Not because of my company or my bank account, but because I have you. And if you'll have me, I promise to spend every day proving that I've learned my lesson. That you and Sophie are my priority. That I will never leave again. That I will show up for soccer games and parent-teacher conferences and quiet Tuesday nights at home. I will be the man I should have been 9 years ago. Tears were streaming down my face. So Emma Clark, will you marry me? For real this time. I looked at Sophie, who was bouncing excitedly. Then at Daniel, on his knee in the grass, hope and love and fear mixed in his expression. 9 years ago, I stood in the rain and watched him drive away. 9 years ago, I thought I'd lost him forever. But here he was. Changed. Grown. Ready. And so was I. Yes, I said. Yes, I'll marry you. He slipped the ring on my finger and pulled me into a kiss. Sophie squealed and threw herself at both of us, and we tumbled onto the blanket in a tangle of laughter and tears. Does this mean Daniel's going to be my stepdad? Sophie asked. If that's okay with you, Daniel said. She pretended to think about it. Only if I can call you Dad Daniel. Dad Daniel works for me. And only if we can get a dog. Daniel looked at me. I shrugged, smiling. We'll talk about it, he said. That means yes, Sophie declared. That evening, after Daniel had left and Sophie was in bed, I called James. Emma, everything okay? Yes, better than okay. But I need to tell you something. Shoot, Daniel proposed. I said yes. Silence on the line. Then, the one from the photograph? Yes. More silence. I could almost hear him processing. Are you happy? He asked finally. I am. Really happy. Then I'm happy for you. Truly. He paused. Is he good to Sophie? He's wonderful with her. James, he's not trying to replace you. He knows how important you are to her. To us. I appreciate that. And Emma, I mean this. You deserve this. You deserve to have the great love. The one that sets you on fire. I'm glad you found it again. My throat tightened. You're a good man, James. I know. That's why Rachel's marrying me next month. What? James. That's amazing. Why didn't you tell me? He laughed. I was going to, but you had bigger news. Listen, Sophie's invited, of course. And you and Daniel, if you want to come. We'd love to. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet living room and thought about the strange paths life takes. How James and I couldn't make it work, but we both found our way to people who fit us better. How love isn't always about timing or trying hard enough. Sometimes it's just about finding the right person. And I'd found mine, lost him, and found him again. Daniel and I decided on a small wedding. Neither of us wanted a big production. I don't need hundreds of people, I told him. I just need the ones who matter. So we invited 30 people. Close friends. Family. Sophie would be the flower girl, of course. James and Rachel would come. Margaret from the bookstore. Some of Daniel's employees who'd become friends over the years. Sophie took her role as flower girl very seriously. She practiced walking slowly, tossing imaginary petals. She insisted on trying on her dress every other day to make sure it still fit. What if I trip? She worried. Then you get up, Daniel told her. And everyone will smile because you're brave enough to try again. Did you ever trip when you were little? All the time. I was a clumsy kid. Really? Really? Ask your mom. I once fell into the lake trying to skip a stone. Sophie looked at me for confirmation. I nodded, smiling at the memory. He did. fully clothed. He was showing off. For you? Sophie asked. For me? That's silly. Love makes you do silly things sometimes, Daniel said. Sophie thought about this. Is that why mommy cries when she watches princess movies? Exactly like that. We set the date for October. A year after Daniel had first called me. A year of healing and rebuilding and learning to trust again. The morning of the wedding, I woke up in my old bedroom. Margaret had insisted I stay with her the night before, said it was tradition not to see the groom. Sophie was already awake, sitting at the window in her flower girl dress. Couldn't sleep? I asked. She shook her head. Too excited. Mommy, are you nervous? A little. Don't be. Dad Daniel loves you so much. I can tell. How can you tell? Because he looks at you the way Daddy looks at Rachel. Like you're the most important person in the whole world. My chest tightened with love for this wise little girl. Come here, I said. She climbed onto the bed and snuggled against me. Sophie, I want you to know something. Just because I'm marrying Daniel doesn't mean anything changes between us. You're still my priority. Always. I know, Mommy. And if you ever feel like you need more time with just me, you tell me. Okay. But Mommy. Yes, baby. I like that you're happy now. You smile more. You don't get that sad look as much. I kissed the top of her head. You make me happy. You and Daniel both. Good. Because I really want that dog. I laughed. We'll talk about it. That's what Dad Daniel said. Does that mean yes? It means maybe. Close enough. The wedding was at the park by the lake, where everything had begun and ended and begun again. We'd set up white chairs under the trees, an arch covered in flowers. Simple. Beautiful. I walked down the aisle with Sophie by my side. She'd insisted on walking with me rather than going first, and every step felt right, like all the broken pieces were finally fitting together. Daniel stood at the arch in a navy suit, his eyes wet when he saw me. The ceremony was short. We'd written our own vows. Daniel went first. Emma, I stand here today as a man who has made mistakes, who has hurt you, who has learned the hard way that success means nothing without someone to share it with. I promise to never leave you again, to show up for the big moments and the small ones, to be a partner to you and a father figure to Sophie, to choose you every single day for the rest of my life. You are my second chance, my great love, my home. Then it was my turn. Daniel, 9 years ago, you made me a promise. You said you'd marry me when you were rich. And here we are. But you were right when you said you didn't understand what rich really meant back then. Because standing here today, I realize we've both been rich all along. Rich in love, in hope, in the ability to forgive and start again. You came back. You kept your promise. And I promised to build a life with you. To love you through the easy days and the hard ones. To never stop believing in us. Thank you for coming back to me. There wasn't a dry eye in the crowd. The officiant pronounced us married. Daniel kissed me softly, sweetly. Sophie clapped and cheered. And just like that, we were a family. The reception was in Margaret's backyard. She transformed it into something magical. Lights strung between trees, tables covered in white cloth, flowers everywhere. We had dinner. Simple food, nothing fancy. Sophie sat between Daniel and me, telling everyone who would listen about her important job as flower girl. James and Rachel came over to congratulate us. You look happy, James said to me. I am. You do too. I am. He looked at Daniel. Take care of them. Both of them. I will, Daniel promised. And thank you for being so gracious about all of this. James shook his hand. They were never really mine to keep, but I'm glad they have you now. Rachel hugged me. Your daughter is adorable. She's been telling me all about how she's getting a dog. I laughed. That's still under negotiation. Good luck with that. She's very convincing. Later, as the sun was setting, Daniel and I had our first dance. Not to a popular song, but to one he'd had commissioned. An acoustic version of a song I'd loved when we were teenagers. You remembered, I whispered. I remember everything, he said. Every moment, every conversation, every promise. We swayed together as the sky turned pink and gold. Sophie ran up and tugged on Daniel's jacket. Can I dance too? He picked her up, held her between us. The three of us danced together as the song played. And I thought, this is what rich really means. Not money or success or things, but this moment, this family, this love. Sophie is 10 now. She got her dog, a golden retriever named Pancake who thinks he's a lapdog despite being 70 pounds. We live in a house with a big yard. Not a mansion, though Daniel could afford one. Just a home. With Sophie's artwork on the fridge and Pancake's toys scattered across the living room, and a tree house Daniel built in the backyard. Daniel still runs his company, but he works from home 3 days a week now. He never misses Sophie's soccer games or school concerts. He's teaching her to code, and she's already better at it than I'll ever be. We had a son last year. His name is Thomas, after Daniel's father, a way of honoring the man while promising to do better. Tommy has Daniel's blue eyes and my blonde hair. Sophie dotes on him, carries him around like a baby doll. James and Rachel had twins. Girls. Sophie loves having baby sisters to visit. She's been teaching them about elephants and penguins and all the things she finds important. On Sundays, we all have brunch together. Me, Daniel, Sophie, Tommy, James, Rachel, and the twins. It's chaotic and loud and perfect. Sometimes Daniel and I still go to the lake. We sit on the hood of his car, not the beat-up one from years ago, but he bought one just like it, said some memories deserve to be recreated, and watch the sunset. Do you ever think about it? I asked him one evening. The 9 years we lost. Sometimes, he admitted. But Emma, I don't think they were lost. I think they were necessary. I needed to grow up, to figure out what really mattered, to become the man worthy of you. You were always worthy of me. Maybe. But I didn't believe that. And until I did, I couldn't be what you needed. He pulled me close. And you needed time too. To become Sophie's mom. To figure out who you were without me. To be ready to let me back in. He was right. We needed those years. As painful as they were. I love you, I said. I love you too. And Emma, I'm rich now. Really rich. I laughed. You've been saying that for years. And I'll keep saying it. Because it's true. Every single day with you and Sophie and Tommy, I'm the richest man alive. They say you can't go home again. That the past is the past and you should leave it there. But I think that's wrong. Sometimes you can go home. Sometimes the love you thought you lost is just waiting for the right moment to return. Sometimes people grow and change and become exactly who they needed to be. Daniel kept his promise. It took 9 years longer than either of us expected. He came back when he was rich. Just not rich in the way he thought. Rich in wisdom, in understanding, in knowing what truly matters. And me, I learned that love isn't about waiting. It's about living. About building a life worth sharing when the right person finally shows up. I learned that children are wiser than we give them credit for. That Sophie knew what I needed before I did. I learned that forgiveness isn't weakness. It's strength. It's choosing to believe that people can change. That second chances are worth the risk. And I learned that sometimes the promise made by a poor boy with nothing, but hope turns out to be the truest promise of all. Because he didn't just promise to marry me when he was rich. He promised to come back. And he did. Tonight, as I write this, Sophie is asleep in her room with Pancake at the foot of her bed. Tommy is in his crib, making the soft snuffling sounds babies make. Daniel is in the kitchen making tea, humming that old song we danced to at our wedding. In a few minutes, he'll bring me a cup. We'll sit on the couch together, his arm around my shoulders, and we'll talk about our day. About Sophie's science project. About Tommy's first tooth. About the ordinary, beautiful things that make up a life. And I'll look at him. This man who left and came back, who broke his promise and then kept it in the most important way. And I'll think about the girl I was at 18. The one standing by that car, listening to a poor boy promise her the world. If I could go back and tell her anything, I'd tell her this. He's going to leave. And it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt so much you'll think you'll never recover. But you will. You'll build a life. You'll become a mother. You'll learn what strength really means. And then, when you least expect it, he'll come back. Not as the boy who left, but as the man who finally understands what matters. And it will be worth the wait. Every single moment of it. Daniel comes into the room with 2 cups of tea. Sets mine on the table. Kisses the top of my head. What are you thinking about? He asks. Promises, I say. Good ones or bad ones? The best one. The one you kept. He smiles. That same smile that made me fall in love with him when I was 16 years old. The one that still makes my heart skip. I'll keep making them, he says. Every day for the rest of our lives. I know you will. And I do know. Because love isn't about the promises we make when we're young and hopeful and naive. It's about the promises we keep when we're older and wiser and brave enough to try again. Daniel was a poor boy who promised me everything. And in the end, he gave me more than I ever dreamed of asking for. Not wealth or status or things, but presence, partnership, a family, a life rich in all the ways that matter. And that promise, the one he's keeping every single day, is worth more than all the money in the world. The end. Sometimes the greatest love stories aren't about perfect people who never make mistakes. They're about imperfect people who find their way back to each other, who learn and grow and choose love, even when it's hard, even when it's scary, even when 9 years stand between them. Daniel was a poor boy who made a promise. And though he took the long way around, he kept it. Because true love isn't measured in time or money or perfect moments. It's measured in showing up, in choosing each other, in building something real together. Thank you for listening to Emma and Daniel's story. May you find your own great love, and may you be brave enough to fight for it when it comes.